Hello, everybody. Today, we are going to be holding our webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Hire, Train, Retain, Retire, the Employee Life Cycle, presented by Cohen Kaye, who I'm going to introduce shortly. Before we begin, I wanted to provide a brief technical overview. As you may have noticed, all attendee phone lines are muted and will remain so throughout the presentation. If you have any questions, please enter them via the Q&A feature as you think of them, or wait to add them at the end of the presentation when we open it up for questions. Attendance in today's live webinar is approved for 1 credit with both HRCI and SHRM. At the end of the presentation, I will share the contact information needed to request those credit codes. So as I mentioned before, today we're going to be talking about the entire employee life cycle. And naturally, when you are bringing people on and into your organization, your top goal is to create a lasting workforce. Today, we have Cohen Kaye with us, who is the Director of Corporate and HCM Learning and Development at AlphaStaff. Robin is a seasoned HR leader with more than 25 years of experience designing and executing human resources and organizational strategies that drive both short and long-term business growth. With an entrepreneurial mindset and deep expertise in HR and business operations, Robin is a trusted partner to business and HR leaders. She is skilled at developing and implementing strategies that address organizational challenges, elevate employee performance, and enhances overall operating results. Before I pass it to Robin, though, I did want to just give a gentle, friendly reminder for everyone on this webinar to take a moment at the end of the webinar to fill out our quick survey. We really appreciate the feedback from our monthly webinars, and we just want to hear from you. So please don't forget to take the survey. And without any more delay, we will go ahead and welcome Robin.
Thank you, Yolati, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So over the next hour, we'll be exploring practical strategies that you can apply to the journey employees take with you and within your organization, from hire to training to retaining, and hopefully through their retirement. Because let's face it, hiring the wrong people or wrong hires and turnover is not only expensive, but it disrupts your business. So as we look at our agenda today, this is what we'll be covering during our time together. While many believe that the employee life cycle is an HR responsibility, managers, no matter where they are within your organization, have a huge influence on every stage of the life cycle. Our approach today will be looking at the employee life cycle from a business perspective, not just an HR perspective. We're going to talk about how it directly impacts a company's bottom line and your ability to scale. So, for example, turnover costs, lost productivity, poor performance, low employee engagement and morale, inconsistent employee experience and services. So let's take a look at the employee life cycle and what it is. As employees move through these stages of the employee life cycle, each stage represents opportunities to strengthen engagement, improve productivity, and more importantly, improve retention and reduce turnover. We want to maximize employee value while creating positive employee experiences. Companies that make a conscious effort to manage the life cycle and not treat employment as a transactional task, but perform more effectively and efficiently than those that view this strictly as transactional. So why is it that the employee life cycle matters? When we take a look at, Yolati, we can go to the next slide. Turnover is expensive. As SHRM says and has done a study, replacing an employee can cost a company anywhere from 6 to 9 months of their salary. Again, 6 to 9 months of their salary when you have employee turnover. This includes everything from recruiting, hiring, training, productivity loss, and the cost effects on your clients and your overall business. We can mitigate these expenses when we effectively manage the employee life cycle. The employee life cycle, as I said before, is not just an HR issue, it's a business issue. It directly impacts your company's bottom line. The employee life cycle is truly a performance system that is tied to growth, risk, and profitability. So let's take a look at some of today's workforce challenges and why it matters. Let's look at the following statistics. According to Gallup.com, in Q4 of 2025, 51% of U.S. employees were either actively looking or searching for a new job. 51%. Ouch. And 30% of new employees quit within the first 90 days of employment, according to LinkedIn. Double ouch. And only 12% of employees feel their company handles the onboarding process well. Again, according to Gallup.com. Employees expect more today, and it's not just a generational thing. Employees overall expect career growth, good leadership, meaningful work, and flexibility. So now that we know why the employee life cycle matters, let's discuss successful hiring. Successful hiring starts before you ever post a position. It starts with your company culture, employee referrals, career advancement, opportunities, and competitive compensation. Think of it this way. A candidate will look at your organization the same way people evaluate brands. If candidates have choices, they will be picky. When you hire the wrong employees to join your team, it can slow down execution, increase costs, and water down your company culture. So how do we attract the right talent as we look at this slide here? Have you ever said to yourself, if I could only have one person like John join my team? Have you ever asked John if he knows anyone? Do you have an employee referral program in place? Have you defined what success in the role truly looks like within your organization? Do you have a sourcing partner? Having a partner already identified before you need to start searching or recruiting can expedite your search process. Being proactive is key. Have you talked with your AlphaStaffHCM contact or your HR account manager or HRG about AlphaStaffHCM's recruitment team, the resources they can be for you when you're looking to not only fill a position, but more importantly, fill it with the right candidate? Because let's face it, if you don't want to just fill a seat. You want the right person sitting in that seat. You want the right person sitting in that seat. And let's not forget the other important piece. Do you have anyone within your organization that can internally move into the role? And you replace that position and then backfill their vacancy. Sometimes we're so quick to jump to the posting mode that we do not look at who or what talent already exists internally and make the strategic business decisions of who is right for that role. So what does interviewing for success look like? Interviews do not pan out well for you or the interviewee if you and your team are not prepared. You can't wing an interview. All interviewers are aware of what the role, are your interviewers aware of what the role is and what success in that role truly looks like? And do they understand what you are really looking for, not just short term, but long term? Is the role new or is it a backfill? All of your interviewers must do their homework before they actually begin interviewing a candidate. Remember, you're not just interviewing the candidate is also interviewing you, your company, and everyone they encounter during the process. If you do not start the process off on the right foot, chances are you may not be hiring the right person for the job because, frankly, you muddied the waters without having a process in place. You need to add more structure to the interview and have a process. Do you have a phone screen? Are interviews being conducted electronically or in person? And who and how many people will be conducting the interviews? And more importantly, what questions will they be asking? If you ask theoretical, tell me what you would do types of questions versus tell me what you did, you'll only get theoretical responses, and you'll wind up with a new hire who can, frankly, talk the talk, but won't be able to put anything into action for you. When you ask behavioral questions when you're doing an interview, you're able to learn what someone did and what they're capable of doing. So again, do you have a structure of how to conduct your interviews within your company? Having a structure leads to not only better hires, but also faster ramp-ups, stronger performance, lower turnover, and it ultimately affects your bottom line. So how do we hire for long-term fit? We need to hire for attitude. Just because someone has a skill set does not mean they are the right fit for your organization. Someone who has the skills but has a bad attitude can destroy a team, but a candidate who has the right attitude and has demonstrated through behavioral questions that they have the aptitude to learn can add tremendous value to your team. Do they align with your company values? Can they pivot and adapt? Are they inquisitive? Can they learn? Have they shared that they have solved problems? And can they support the organization's long-term goal of success? Essentially, what you want to do is hire for what you can't train. Very important. So let's take a look at onboarding and training. Onboarding matters. I'm going to repeat that again. Onboarding matters. Companies with a strong onboarding program see higher new hire retention and experience higher productivity with new hires. This is one of the most influential pieces of the employment life cycle. Effective onboarding is not a one-day orientation. It truly is a 90-day process or program, and it too needs to be structured. So when we look at the elements of a successful onboarding program, we need to set the stage at the beginning. What does success in this role look like? What is the desired outcome? What goals are you setting for the new hire? Prepare a training plan addressing company culture as well as role-specific training. Peer mentorship programs, when done with planning and purpose, foster team building and a sense of belonging, in addition to a safe space for your new hires to ask questions. Managers need to schedule check-ins. They need to be daily, and then they can be weekly as they move through the employment cycle. They cannot be what we refer to as a drive-by when you pass them and go, hey, how's everything going? You need to have structured questions of what you want to ask, what you want to find out about. Temperature checks are necessary. They foster open communication. They provide the managers with feedback of what is working and maybe what you need to tweak. Strong onboarding equals faster productivity plus lower early turnover. If you don't currently have an onboarding program in place, or if you want an objective evaluation of a current process, reach out to your AlphaStaffHCM contact or your HRAM to learn how AlphaStaffHCM can partner with you in assessing your options for a successful onboarding program. Because again, onboarding sets the stage at the very beginning for the full employee life cycle. So let's talk about training. When we look at training, organizations that invest in effective training for new and existing employees help build confidence and productivity. Learning does not end after the 90 days onboarding and orientation. It is essential to your business and industry changes, new processes as they're being introduced, technology changes that occur throughout the lifetime of the employee life cycle. You become more competitive to candidates when you can show that you invest in training your existing team and how you will train them when and if they join your organization. When you invest in training and you invest in improved retention, again, when you invest in training, you are investing in improved retention. Have multiple training options. Everyone learns differently. It's not a one-size-fits-all. LMS, instructor-led training, self-paced training, on-the-job training, job shadowing. What works best for your organization? What works best for the actual topic that you're trying to train them on? And then what works best for the team? Ongoing training supports skill development and leadership development throughout the employee life cycle. So when we talk about developing existing employees, let's take a look at why employees leave. And this is a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. Leadership style plays a major role in retention, and managers influence most of these factors. Are your managers properly trained to manage a team? Did you promote someone into a leadership role because they were good at their job and figured they would be a good leader because they were successful in the role? If you did not provide them with the tools and the proper training, they will not be successful as a manager, and they will not be successful in bringing your team to where you need them to be. Even if someone is at the top of their ladder, can they grow in other ways? Can they mentor newer teammates? Can they gain exposure to other areas within the organization? If your managers are not engaging your team, your employees will look for someone who can and will, and that may be outside of your organization. Remind your team to praise in public. And if employees' needs are not being met, as I said, then they will leave. They will look to go somewhere else. What are our key drivers of engagement? Engaged employees tend to be more productive and loyal. Employees feel engaged when they feel connected to the mission of the company, to the department, valued by leadership, and know that they matter. Are you supporting your team not just when you think they need it, but are you supporting them every day? And you've all heard this before. People leave managers, not companies. Our managers influence an employee satisfaction more than your company's policies. Employees want regular feedback. They want clear communication. They want career discussions, and they want supportive leadership. And that leadership is throughout the entire organization. It doesn't have to be their individual leader. It's also leaders throughout the organization that they come in contact with. And this is key. Manager quality is truly the #1 driver of retention. So when we look at recognition and rewards for an employee and in the employee life cycle, recognition is a strong driver of employee motivation. Recognition does not have to be a big, grand gesture. It could be simple recognition, and appreciation can improve morale. People want their contributions to be recognized, but it must be sincere and meaningful. So do you have awards programs in place? Do you offer professional development opportunities? You know, a lot of people think it's only about the bonuses. It doesn't have to be. It's the simple gestures that also go a long way and improve morale. So take a look at what you're doing with regards to your organization and your employees in their life cycle. What kind of recognition and rewards do you have? Do you have employee of the month? Do you have employees of the quarter? Do you praise in public on a regular basis? Those pieces that don't cost you anything actually can add large dividends to your bottom line. When we look at retention and engagement, this is so critical. How do you not only retain your talent, but how do you help them stay engaged? When we look at the career pathway, employees want to have an understanding of what their future holds for them. How can I grow? What do I have to do to not only retain my position, but grow within my position? Employees that see career growth opportunities and have career paths that are clearly spelled out are more likely to stay with you. Set career goals during performance evaluations. Are you even doing performance evaluations for your team? This is where you can have those conversations. Are you asking your employees throughout the life cycle, what is it that makes them tick? What do they want to do? And are you truly listening to that to see how it fits within your organization? Offer them opportunities to develop and enhance their skills. Are you investing in upskilling? Are you reskilling as you maybe make process changes so you don't lose valuable talent? Explore opportunities for them to gain leadership experience with teams and projects. Build mobility pathways. What are you doing for your employees to develop a career? Because what you don't want to have is you've trained someone and then they leave because there's nowhere for them to go. When we look at leadership development throughout their career path, when you can develop and promote from within, you reduce the risks by not having to hire someone externally. You already know this person. You increase overall team morale when they see there's upward mobility. You capitalize on the institutional knowledge that they bring to the table. Are you doing cross-functional leadership development where they can share their skill set within other avenues of your organization? But here's the key. Please make sure that you're not promoting someone just because they've been with you longer. You need to make sure you're putting the right person in the right position and that you're setting them and your organization up for success. Do you have a leadership training program in place? And if so, what does it look like? Development needs start early, not just when you have an immediate need. You need to be training your employees throughout all facets of the organization. Your AlphaStaffHCM contact or HRAM can share with you the different types of leadership training programs that we can assist you with. Doesn't have to be that it's just your managers. It could be an early manager development program. So please take a look at what you have in place and see what you can do to retain your employees. Preparing employees for long-term careers. So now you've retained your talent and you've got good talent and they're engaged. But how do you prepare them for long-term careers with you? How do you keep them excited about what they're doing? How do you keep them wanting to come into work every day, not just for a paycheck, but to contribute? So let's talk about supporting tenured employees. Obviously, we know the organizational benefits from tenured employees. Tenured employees have the institutional knowledge that we need within an organization. They have the relationships as well, whether they be your internal relationships amongst your different departments as well as their own department, but also potentially with clients if you service outside industries. Their experience in many cases is invaluable. Ask yourself, what are you doing to support your tenured employees so they can continue to stay and they want to stay? What you don't want to do is overlook this group. They help not only sustain your business, but prepare it for the future by training and sharing their knowledge with others within your organization. Somebody doesn't have to be in a leadership role to be a trainer. Are you doing cross-functional training amongst your teams? Are you doing mentorship programs that are cross-functional? All ideas that don't cost a lot of money that you can do to support your tenured employees and keep them engaged and growth. When we take a look at knowledge transfer protects continuity and should be a part of your day-to-day operations. An employee can leave at any time, and you don't want to be caught without a plan. So what types of processes do you have in place for documentation of the different projects? Don't wait for that person to leave or a pending retirement for you to all of a sudden say, what do I do here? How do I make this work? I don't know how this job was done. Succession planning is also key and should be an ongoing leadership discussion. What does your organization look like from succession planning, not just 1 year out, but 5 years out? Do you have it mapped out? What do you want to see the future look like for your organization, but more importantly, with those employees? Because let's face it, when someone leaves, there's a gap within that organization. You may have someone who can help you through that process, but if you haven't transferred the knowledge, it's going to affect your business. Being proactive is critical to your bottom line, to your team, and to your business. It affects your operational stability. As we look forward to supporting employees through retirement, that's another big piece. We want the new hires, when they go through their onboarding, we should be talking about retirement even in onboarding. Now, some people may say, wait a minute, they're just starting with us. But if employees don't see the big picture from day one, then it just becomes transactional to them. I'm here to do a job. I don't know how long I'm going to stay, what I'm going to do. We want to make sure our employees understand from day one that there's opportunity for them to make a long-term career. So supporting retirement demonstrates respect for long-term employees. And again, it helps preserve our institutional knowledge. It speaks volumes to lesser tenured team members. It shows them firsthand what their future holds and that they too will be valued. Do you have a 401k to drive tenure? Do you encourage tenure to retirement within your organization? So take a minute and ask yourself, what are you doing to encourage hire to retire within your organization? And if you do have processes in place, ask yourself, are we doing enough to encourage hire to retire? Once you have your answer, take a look at it and address any open issues and areas of opportunities. Because again, turnover is costly. Training is costly. Training is important. Training is effective when done correctly. But when we're training because of turnover, that's where it becomes a critical aspect of your organization. So when we look at some key takeaways, are we hiring for potential? When we bring someone in, maybe at frontline, that's great. We have that role to fill. But are we actually forward thinking and thinking, where can they fit in the organization 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 15 years from now? You and your leadership should be asking those questions with every new candidate you meet and every new hire you bring on board. Hire for cultural fit. Do they fit within the goals of the organization? Do they fit for what you're thinking about today and what you're thinking about for tomorrow? Provide a structured onboarding. I can't say that often enough. If you have a poor onboarding, you're going to have high turnover. And it's going to cost you lots of money because, again, the lost time of retraining someone else, having a gap within your system. Support continuous learning. Again, learning starts day one and it doesn't end after the onboarding. It should go through the entire employee life cycle. When you do that, you have higher retention. You also then get better results. Recognize and engage your employees. What are you doing to ensure that they feel valued? Support the career growth of your employees. If you get the life cycle right, you just don't retain employees, you build leaders and you sustain your business and you have operational excellence. So when we take another look at this employee life cycle graph on our next slide, when we attract the right talent and we have that structured onboarding, we develop their skills like we've said, we keep them engaged, do all of those things, we're providing stronger organizational and more productive and sustained workforce. If one stage is lacking or is weak, it affects the entire employee experience. Fragmented systems and priorities, outdated processes such as, we've always done it this way, this is why we do it, decisions that are reactive versus proactive and are not data-driven, or we're not treating the employee life cycle as a business strategy, and we're not utilizing our business partners' expertise and their knowledge to assess our current processes, or we have a fear of change, these are all things that prevent us from having an effective employee life cycle. So when we go back to the attraction, what are we doing for attraction? You need to break this down when you look at the employee life cycle and really look at it piece by piece and ask yourselves these questions that we've talked about up until this point. What am I doing to attract people to my organization? What am I doing to ensure that our team is willing to help us also attract people to our organization? What am I doing when it comes to the interviewing process within the organization to make sure I'm getting the right candidates? When we're looking at the hiring process, again, it encompasses your onboarding and your development. Making someone a job offer and getting them through day one of orientation is a very small piece of the puzzle. What structure do you have in place for that onboarding? A poor onboarding, again, as I've said before, leads to higher turnover. And then your development of the employees. Take a look at what you have in place. Really assess each piece of this employee life cycle. Your engagement and retention. What is your engagement and retention? Have you looked at the numbers? Where are you losing employees? At what part of the employee life cycle? Do you have a good handle on that data to understand when are employees leaving? Are they leaving in the 1 to 3 year category, or are they leaving in the 5 to 10 year category? And then why are they leaving? What are you doing to capture that information so you can ensure that you have the right retention strategies in place? Are you doing exit interviews? But more importantly, are you doing stay interviews to find out what makes people want to stay within your organization and grow and develop? Don't just take it for granted that you have a tenured workforce. And yes, they could be very successful and good at what they do, but why do they stick around? Are you asking the right questions? Are you looking at what your processes are? And then when you look at retirement, what are you doing to encourage them to stay through retirement? Not everybody wants upward mobility. Lateral mobility is a perfect thing for a lot of people as well. They want to try new things. They want to be challenged. They want to be engaged. Are you doing those things for your team that they do want to stay through retirement? And again, are you looking at the institutional knowledge that they bring to the table? And do you have the right processes in place to ensure you don't lose that institutional knowledge when they move on to retirement? So those are all of the things in the employee life cycle as we look at how we can keep our workforce going, how we can keep them engaged, because great organizations grow great employees. So your employee life cycle is a competitive advantage that can lead to measurable business outcomes, such as better client and service outcomes. Because when you have the right employee life cycle, you are functioning on all cylinders. Your business is stable. You have the right outcomes that you need to continue to grow. Stronger talent, as I've said before, equals retention, higher productivity. You have faster execution of newer strategies when you have the right employee life cycle in place. You have stronger leadership pipelines. An effective employee life cycle is a strategic advantage that drives profitability. Again, an effective employee life cycle is a strategic advantage that drives profitability. And that's critical to your business. If you only take one thing away from our time together today, it is that you assess your current processes within the employee life cycle and be willing to make changes if needed to enhance the experience and the outcomes of your employees, yourself, and your organization. If you'd like assistance on how to have this work for you and take a look at it further, reach out to your AlphaStaffHCM partner, and we can help guide you to achieve the desired outcomes and changes that you want to make within your organization. So Yolati, if we can turn this over to some Q&A.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, so at this time, we're going to go ahead and invite questions. So as a reminder, you're going to stay muted. So just go ahead and please just enter any of your questions in the Q&A feature. I know we had one come in. Let me get it opened here. Okay, how would you standardize onboarding across multiple locations while still allowing flexibility at the site level? So I think this question is more gauging at having multiple sites, more or less doing the same thing, allowing them to have flexibility, but also standardizing the onboarding process so that everybody's doing, I think, the same thing. I think
Sure.
I'm reading that question right.
Okay. Yeah. And if we are reading the question right, great. And if not, I hope the person will put that question back in the chat for
Yeah.
clarification. So your onboarding process, when you take a look at it, isn't just an HR onboarding process. And that's what we can help you with. And we can do, an onboarding assessment of what you're currently doing. But you have certain things you have to do within an onboarding. You have your typical transactional new hire processes that you have to go through, your policies and your procedures. But what are you doing from a cultural aspect to engage? And that can be done multiple locations. Do you have the capability to do certain types of training or rather onboardings remotely as a team if you're onboarding? Are you utilizing your managers to help you with onboarding? Remember, onboarding isn't just an HR function. Onboarding also is the function of leadership. It's also the function cross-functionally within the organization. Are you utilizing your team members the right way to help them feel engaged, to teach them the new processes, to share the culture within the organization, to talk about career pathing, etc.? So I hope that answers that person's question. And if not, please feel free to pop it back in the chat and we can go from there.
Yeah. Okay, another one. What role should direct managers play in onboarding, and how do you hold them accountable for that experience?
Okay, great question. It's great to always have your managers part of your onboarding process. Managers play a key role, again, if it's their direct supervisor, their direct manager, in learning about the department. So when we talk about onboarding, onboarding isn't just about the overall organization. It's also about how the individual department operates within the organization. They can help with those processes, showing them how certain things work within your team. Leadership can then also work within their departments with some of their star performers in the departments to help with a mentorship program. So using your leadership for onboarding is key. Those are the people that the new employee is going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. When you focus on just HR to do your onboarding process, a lot of times they don't have all of the answers of what the day-to-day operational aspects of the business are. And that's where your leadership and those departments come into play. So I hope that answers your question.
Hey, we just got another one. How do you recover when onboarding starts off poorly? Is there any point where retention is already lost?
That's a really great question. And there's not a one size fits all answer for that because it really depends upon what took place and what happened. And this is why it is so important on day one when you're doing your actually onboarding begins when new hire paperwork and all of those processes. And HR professionals already know how important that piece is. But are we engaging our managers early enough in the process? Were they part of the interview process for the new hire? So all of those things come into play with what makes a strong onboarding. So you really have to look at the organization. You have to look at what you're doing with your onboarding. And again, that's where an onboarding assessment can really help. But as far as losing the employee at the beginning, it's going to depend upon what was lost, how it was lost. Is leadership engaging with the onboarding experience from the get-go? And if they are, then you have opportunities to turn the ship around. Are you allowing for open dialogue? Are you doing those check-ins that we talked about in the onboarding process that are not drive-bys? But, in some situations, onboarding can be where you're doing daily check-ins with an employee, a new hire. Other times it may be that it's every couple of days. So those are all key and critical pieces to help be able to turn those things around.
That's great. And I think too, if I can add just transparency, right? I think people can really respect that. So if you know that somebody maybe is starting off as, maybe not so happy about their onboarding, or it was a little rough and that maybe just life or, busyness or just not having things as structured or streamlined, I think just not even, just calling attention to it. Hey, we're really working on our onboarding process. And unfortunately, we haven't really, gotten everything the way that we wanted it to, but we're acknowledging it and we're grateful for your flexibility. Just key things like that, because I think that regardless of where the person is at, whether they're happy or not happy with the onboarding, just the call out, the authenticity of, you addressing it is something that I think a lot of people would respect.
Absolutely. Great points, Yolati. Thanks.
Mhm. And then there's one more. How do you make sure that frontline employees receive the same quality onboarding as corporate or salaried staff? I think the first thing that comes to mind, if I may, Robin, is
Sure.
just treating every frontline employee as if they were, right? They were corporate staff or salaried staff.
Exactly.
We like to roll out red carpets for, corporate staff and CEOs and all of the things, which we should, right? But I think if in your mind you've already, fixed yourself to say, okay, no matter who this person is, no matter what their title is, no matter, where they come from, whatever the case may be, if they have a lot of experience, or if they don't, if they're new on the job, rolling out that red carpet for everybody will give them or give you the opportunity to make sure that everyone, across the board is receiving that same onboarding as anybody that would be of a higher level.
You hit the nail right on the head, Yolati. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. I don't see any more. Feel free to add them if you are still with us. Also wanted to just shamelessly plug that survey again. We really do appreciate the feedback. So I don't think it'll take very long, maybe a couple minutes. So just wanted to encourage that again. And then also to request a copy of today's presentation, as well as your HRCI and SHRM credit codes, please make sure to send an email to webinars@alphastaff.com. If for whatever reason a question comes up also after this webinar is completed, feel free to also send a question over to that email as well, and we'll be sure to respond. And we want to make sure to invite you to our next webinar. We have them monthly. The next webinar is titled Legal Updates for Employers. That's scheduled on May 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Robin, thank you so much for sharing your expertise on the subject. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody.